Hello and welcome to Record Sports Hotline Live. My name is Daniel Caw and I'm delighted not to be joined by Keith Jackson tonight. I'm joined by Record Sports Craig Swan. Swanee, how's it going?
Yeah, good. Thank you, Daniel. How are you?
I'm very good, thanks. And Record Sports Scott Burns. Burnsy, how you doing?
Good, yourself?
I'm wonderful, thanks. I mean, Keith's great and all, but it's good to put him out on loan. Do you know what I mean? Bring in some real quality into the show.
Sorry, I feel quite humbled. Sorry,
we'll be happy with you.
Sorry, I feel quite humbled. You know, being on with an award winner. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know. It's that.
Showbiz night out and all that. You know what I mean?
I know. I'm waiting for the speech and that. Thank your family and thank your fans and sponsors and.
Look, guys, I'm kind of a big deal. I don't want to go on about it, but it's just the facts of life. Speaking of awards, I think that's the best place for us to start.
Well done, Burnsy. Good link. You'll be taking his job shortly.
I'm a support act.
That's it. PFA Player of the Year Awards. The nominees were announced today. Swanee, I'll start with yourself. Is there anyone that can take this away from Daizen Maeda?
I wouldn't have thought so. Daniel, he's been outstanding this season from start to finish. Different positions as well. So effective in the wide area early in the season, and then I think the biggest compliment you can pay to Daizen Maeda is the fact that Celtic have not noticed that Kyogo Furuhashi left. And you would never have believed that, even this time last year. Daizen Maeda was obviously brought in for big money, and he was going to be the one who would fill the void, but that didn't happen, or hasn't happened to the effect that maybe Celtic would have wanted. But Daizen Maeda has just made the issue of Kyogo leaving disappear, and his numbers, and we talked about it on the show last night. It's his assists and his calmness now and his composure. When he gets into position to make goals for other people, his finishing's just gone up a level as well. You know, there's no slashing or thrashing or that. He's scoring goals, both feet, headers. He's been absolutely tremendous. So no, I think he's a certainty to win it. To be perfectly honest with you,
33 goals in 48 games for Celtic this season. It is pretty remarkable, Burnsy, but you saw the other nominees there. Callum McGregor's been brilliant. Nicolas Kuhn seems to have woken up again. He's got 20 goals in 47 appearances. And obviously, Simon Murray enjoying another really good season. He's got 22 goals in 42 games. So I agree with Swanee. I can't see Maeda not winning it. But it's a pretty impressive lineup.
No, it is, but it's the old adage, isn't it? It's not the way you start, it's the way you finish. And Nicolas Kuhn at the start of the season was flying. Now it's Maeda. So he's finishing the season strongly. He's the player in focus. He's the player in mind. And maybe what Nicolas Kuhn had done at the start of the season when he was flying and in Europe is maybe getting forgotten about a little bit compared to Daizen Maeda, you know what I mean? But there's no doubt that Daizen Maeda has been excellent. He's had a brilliant season. As of Celtic, you know what I mean? That's why there's 3 of the 4 players in the PFA Scotland shortlist are Celtic players. I mean, if you look at the other one, Simon Murray, I think it's a fantastic achievement for Simon Murray to be on that shortlist for a team who are at the bottom end of the league. You know what I mean? He scored 20 odd goals, and if it wasn't for his goals, then Dundee would be banging trouble. You know what I mean? But he's a player who he just seems to get better as he gets older. You know what I mean? He's made a real impact, and he thoroughly deserves to be on that shortlist. And I know people have talked about a potential Scotland call-up. Maybe his age will go against him, but you never know. I mean, this squad, the squad for the games at the end of the season, you might see a lot of our top players sort of drop out, and that might give, like Simon Murray, an opportunity. But certainly, I mean, in terms of the PFA awards, for me, he deserves to be in that 4-man shortlist.
We've got comments coming in on this as well, guys. You can see, obviously, Dave Potter there saying Maeda. Dave Joyce says there's only one wee guy winning all those awards. It's the man from Japan. Dave Mahan has a bit of a joke saying for Celtic, Maeda or Jack Butland. But on that, Swanee, anyone from Rangers at all could have deserved it. I know some Rangers fans in our comments on Facebook saying Nico Raskin, perhaps. Václav Černý, maybe? No?
Nowhere near consistent enough.
No, that's fair.
Nowhere near consistent enough. Look at the consistency of the 3 Celtic players that are on it. And as Scott has alluded to, 22 goals for Simon Murray for a Dundee team in the position they're in. Rangers, Václav Černý has done wonderful things, and then 2 games doesn't do anything, which is Rangers' problem. They're too out, they're consistent. These players mirror the team itself. So, no, I wouldn't have any of them near it. I would, I'd like to agree with Scott, certainly on the Simon Murray issue. I would slightly disagree with him on Daizen Maeda and the fact that I think Daizen Maeda was equally as effective as Nicolas Kuhn in the first half of the season. Hat-tricks in semi-finals, he scored goals in the Champions League. You know, I think he was equally as good. Maybe Kuhn slightly, but there wasn't much between them. So I'm not sure it's just a recency bias. I think Maeda's done it all the way through the season. The one thing I would say is, I know, again, we've talked about it, Callum McGregor, just because he's so consistently good, probably won't win it, because you just expect him to be 8, 9 out of 10 every week. But the one question I would ask is, you could take Daizen Maeda out the Celtic team and you can cover his absence. You can take Kuhn out the Celtic team and you can cover his absence. You struggle to take Callum McGregor out the Celtic team. And to me, that is the ultimate accolade for a player.
Aye, we saw that at Celtic Park, didn't we, in the last Old Firm game?
Yeah, we are guilty. Everyone's guilty of forgetting that Callum McGregor played at Ibrox at New Year when Rangers won as well. So it wasn't just that, but he's entitled to have a bad day at the office. But I just, in general, if you take Callum McGregor out, Celtic's whole dynamism of their team changes. Whereas you could take one of the wingers out and they can just slot a James Forrest in there and they can get away with it, or a Jota. But you can't replicate. No one at Celtic can replicate what Callum McGregor gives to Celtic. Yeah, which is the ultimate accolade you can pay.
I asked yourself, Swanee, last night, or maybe your take, Burnsy, Ibrox at the weekend. Celtic, did they go with either through the middle or Maeda? What do you think?
I think Maeda probably through the middle. I think that will be it. Pace will help that Rangers central defence, movement, and I think he offers a lot more of that than Adam either. You know what I mean? So I think that they'll go with Maeda through the middle. And I think probably going forward, he's probably going to be a centre forward more than a winger. You know what I mean? Although there will be times where Brendan Rodgers will put him out wide, but I see him probably more as a central striker now.
Marzuno writes in, Swanee, saying Callum McGregor has only won one Player of the Month award ever in his Celtic career. I mean, I don't know if that's correct, but that would kind of back up your point. He is just kind of taken for granted how good he is, how exceptional he is.
That's exactly it. That's exactly it. Callum McGregor will be 8 out of 10 every week, more or less, every single week. And in a certain month, a striker will have a freak month where he scores 5 goals and he gets Player of the Month. And you don't see him again for the rest of the season. Yeah. And Callum McGregor's just a victim of that. It's incredible. I think I remember it. I remember when he won it and it was put to him. They hadn't won one before. I think everybody was shocked. But he's a victim of his own consistency. That's and his own quality. So if I was him, I'd take that as a compliment.
And just finally, on the Player of the Year stuff, Hoopsaholic writes in saying Casper Schmeichel, I assume, should have been on the list ahead of Kuhn. Is there anyone else that you guys can think of, not just from Rangers or whatever, that should have been on the list? Sam Dalby, perhaps, at Dundee United, Burnsy? Something like that?
Sam Dalby scored a lot of goals for Dundee United, been the main man, and his goals have been really important in getting Dundee United into the top 6 and into that European fight. If it hadn't been for these goals, then they wouldn't be there, because they've won a lot of goals by a goal or two where the big man stepped up. And then I think also you've got to look at it. I mean, I know they lost at the weekend, but that Hibs team, they've been on a fantastic run. We're third in the league. And there's nobody from that team even made the sort of shortlist, is there? The team of the year, is there?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't think any of them made the team of the year. So I mean, guys like, I don't know, obviously Martin Boyle scored a few goals. Rocky Bashiri has really come up. He stepped up the levels as well. So guys like that can feel themselves a little bit unfortunate because
Hibs and Aberdeen, Scott, if Hibs and Aberdeen paid the penalty for, they were both having terrible runs and great runs at the same time. I mean, if you were having this voting in November, you would have had Shinnie in there, you would have had Papa Gay in there. You know, you had so many of the Aberdeen boys that were doing so well. You know, Hibs at that time were awful, so none of them you could even think about. And then when Aberdeen went off the boil, then you have guys like Nectar Triantis and Bashiri and Boyle who've really come to the fore at Hibs, but none of them have done it over the full season. And Rangers have intermittently, as we've said, 2 good games, a bad game. 2 good, so they've been inconsistent all season. So I think that's probably what's cost those lads? I mean, I think if you had the awards in the individual sections when their teams went through their brilliant runs, they would be worthy of consideration, some of them. But the fact that their teams went, I think Hibs were 4 months dismal, and Aberdeen were maybe something similar.
Yeah,
so
no,
that's cost them in the end. But you're right to point out the individuals that you have. I mean, great spells in the season, but the clue's in the name, player of this season.
I mean, Aberdeen have they're obviously sitting fourth just now, but they've been split into two parts of the season. The good part of the season, second half, was fell off the cliff, and then they're back in form. But the sort of players who were key in the first half of the season, second half of the season, it's different players who are now key. So there's probably not an argument for over the course of the season, one player could stand out on that list. You know what I mean? And for example, Kevin Nisbet in probably December, January, nobody was thinking. I think quite a lot of the Aberdeen fans were quite happy if Millwall had recalled him. You know what I mean? Now he's scoring goals for fun. You know what I mean? So it's just been nobody's done it over the course of the season. And Swanee's right. That's probably how these guys haven't shown the same consistency as the Celtic players, in fairness.
Off the park, guys, away from the players, we need to check in on the latest odds for the vacant managerial positions. The two high-profile ones in the Premiership, obviously, Rangers and Hearts. Let's start with Rangers. We mentioned this yesterday, Swanee, but Marco Rose, or is it Rose or Rosie?
Rose, I think.
I think Rosa.
You're just obsessed with wine, that's your problem.
He and Steven Gerrard are even money now, joint favourites to be the next Rangers manager. Fans will remember that when he was in charge of Salzburg, Rosa took on Celtic and obviously got dolled up in his Celtic gear, and that looks like a Rangers manager to me, Swanee.
We said it last night, didn't we? That'll be the very first pick. That picture is etched there forever.
That'll be the Celtic fans' tifo if he does become
end of interview.
Every rose has its thorn.
Oh, there you go. That's for a newspaper.
Very good, yeah.
But Swanee, Gerrard, did you see anything in that? That seems odd to me. But
listen, we talk about these managerial betting things all the time. Daniel, I've spoken about it before. I could go into £1.27 and Russell Martin and he'd be 1 to 5. I mean, these markets are just so flimsy that the liquidity in the market. I'm sorry, I'm going into old betting terminology there, but honestly, it's.
I'm here for it.
No, I'm not. I mean, you will. At some point, the Betfair exchange, you will get other exchanges are available. I think I should probably say that. But when the price crashes there, eventually at some point, then we'll finally get to the bottom of it. But I mean, just like you've got the list on the screen just now. There's some fascinating names there.
Sean Dyche, I think, is one that I think would do really well at Rangers. I think
that's a great shout, Daniel. I think Sean Dyche would be a brilliant Rangers manager.
Kind of fits in my head. I don't really know why, but I just think that would be a good fit.
Work ethic, ethos, straight talking. That was everything that Sean Dyche was all about from what we've been told during his time at Burnley and at Everton. And obviously he was tagged with a certain style of football, which perhaps wasn't easy on the eye for people. But then there was always the counter argument that he was having to deal with the situations he was in and the players he had and the teams he had, that they were kind of generally fighting against things, and that's the type of football that you have to play in those situations. And would he be a better manager and play a different style of football if he was coaching a team that was near the top of a league with better players than their counterparts that they're playing against? So I think Dyche has always come across as a just good straight up fella. I think you would have had dealings with him, Scott, wouldn't you, when Aberdeen played Burnley? Am I right there?
Aberdeen played Burnley, the 2
years. Yeah, comes across great, I think.
Yeah, but the one span on that works is that I don't think he's that close to Kevin Farewell. Speaking to people who have worked with them both, I don't think at times they always see so eye to eye in terms of players. Obviously, some of the foreign players that came in, I think, came in and didn't play as much. They may be playing more now under the David Moyes, but never really got a chance under Sean Dyche. So I'm not convinced that would be a runner. I could be totally wrong, but it's just the information I was told. And on the time, at the end of his time at Goodison Park wasn't great, and the relationship, were they both pulling in the same direction? I don't know. But
I should add, I wasn't putting him forward for the job. I was just merely talking about how he is as a manager.
As a person, yes, he's very good, sort of thing. Yeah, the press conference, he's very good, and obviously well thought of at Burnley because he's got a pub named after him, isn't he? So
yes,
he's bad.
Yes, and that's interesting what you say though, Scott. Do you think that will have quite a big bearing on how the new system works at Rangers, and the fact that Kevin Thelwell will have a massive say, and any manager that comes in is going to have to deal with that, or do you think it'll be different?
No, I think, obviously he's going to be central to that, along with the 49ers, you know what I mean, and Andrew Cavendish in it. I mean, these guys, I believe there's a meeting in Glasgow today, the next couple of days, isn't there? The 49ers are coming up to push things along, sort of thing. So, no, I think that together they'll come up with a name. I think they'll want a name that excites the fans, you know what I mean? They'll want somebody who, it's a first appointment, won't it? They'll want something that will excite the fans and the fans can unite and get behind, sort of thing. And I think that will be a big name, or somebody at least with a proven record. You know what I mean? I know we looked at the betting odds there, and if you look at the betting odds, if you look at that, it's quite close to that sort of fake leaked document that was going about on the social media channels last night, wasn't it? You know what I mean? With Rose and Gerrard and that. So, like Craig, I would take that the betting as it stands with a pinch of salt.
No,
I think that's it, Daniel. That's what I was alluding to. There's probably X amount of number of seen that thing flying about on WhatsApp, gone into the fiver on, and the prices have contracted completely.
Aye, that's fair.
It's no big gauge to me.
We've got some comments coming in on this as well. Rangers is okay says, I take it Kevin Thelwell, although he's working his notes at Everton just now, will be heavily involved in appointing a manager. We really need someone in early June to start clearing the squad. You mentioned a glamorous name there, Burnsy. Mourinho, the first choice, but Dyche will do a good job. So many comments coming in on Sean Dyche's voice, believe it or not. Patman says Dyche talks like Louis Armstrong sings, and Hoopsaholic follows up with, but unlike Louis Armstrong, Dyche won't have all the time in the world. This one as well, Swanee, I can't not put this up. The two deepest voices in the world. Imagine Gavin Berry interviewing Sean Dyche. And this final one from Danny.
Because your love.
By Barry White.
This one from Danny, which is just incredibly harsh. I think Gravel Gob, avoid him like the plague. Jeez, I just think that's harsh.
You're talking about Gav as if he's not
here. Sorry, Gav, if you're watching this. That was outrageous.
No, I'm not.
I just think he would make Rangers hard to beat again, but who knows? Across the country, Hearts are obviously looking for a new manager, and I think we can look at the odds for them as well. As it stands this afternoon, Robbie Neilson, Swanee. Robbie Neilson for a third stint at Hearts. Are you having that? John McGlynn, obviously, second favourite at 2-1. Stephen Robinson, last night on the show, Keith Jackson pointed out that Stephen Presley, who's there at 4-1, he would be ready to answer the call, perhaps. He mentioned, obviously, Derek McInnes as well. But who do you guys see as being the likely next Jambo's boss?
We talked about this last night, didn't we? I mean, it's what way they want to go about it, and it sounds to me like they're all in on the analytical side of it. So I think that'll be what the computer throws up. I think that's the way they're going to go. Or else why get involved in it in the first place? And I'm pretty certain that Tony Bloom is not going to invest all the money that he's going to invest to then have his systems ignored. I'd be surprised if that was the case. But we just have come to not really know what's going to happen at Hearts, haven't we?
Mark Fairfield says John McGlynn, surely. Burnsy, I mean, John McGlynn, Robbie Neilson for a third spell again, like Steven Gerrard. Just personally, to me, the
Hearts fans never forgave Robbie Neilson for Hibs winning the cup. And so he's on the back foot as soon as he goes back in, and that's not Robbie's fault. But that would be how it would. Just you're starting off on a bad note. It's hard enough starting off when you've got everybody at your back. I couldn't see that.
Nah, me neither. Well, I mean, do you think, Burnsy, would it be a kind of, for want of a better phrase, a Hearts man, a kind of British coach, or a more kind of continental Jimmy Thielen sort of take that you think could maybe sort Hearts out?
I think this time they'll go. It'll be another. I think it'll be somebody with strong. Spoke to someone earlier on, and the analytics will be strong on this one. I'm told it'll be 75% analytics and then 25% involvement with the board in terms of this appointment. So both aspects will be there. I think, and I know they're still taking applications. The applications will get put forward to the board. They'll be run through the analytics to see where they stand, and if any of these people will take it to the next stage, sort of thing. But I think certainly they are looking at the domestic market, and well, who would you say just now is the best in the domestic market? Obviously, Brendan Rodgers is not going to become Hearts manager, is he? But who out there's been successful? I would be surprised if Stephen Robinson doesn't come in the mix this time. I really would. The job he's done at St Mirren, win ratio, getting them into Europe, I think he might come into the equation this time because he's been shortchanged quite a few times. And I know St Mirren fans will be throwing things at their screen just now, calling me for everything, but I wouldn't be surprised if Stephen Robinson comes into the equation this time.
I think he'd make a really good Hearts manager. Swan, I mean, top 6 for 3 seasons in a row with St Mirren. You can't overlook. I mean, that's really impressive.
Absolutely outstanding.
Aye.
The work Stephen Robinson's done. And if you actually consider, some of the situations he's had to deal with, it might have been, I think it was a couple of seasons ago, and it was so many cuts being made, and the club just had to do it. And Stephen was dealing with, I can remember one being barely any coaches, and there was guys doing, in the 8 o'clock, 10 o'clock, just constant working, non-stop. What he's been able to do at that football club is remarkable.
Yeah.
And again, it goes back to the Callum McGregor thing. Take it for granted now how good Stephen Robinson's going to be. And that in itself is an ultimate compliment that were St Mirren. I'm not saying St Mirren fan, that I don't want to speak for St Mirren fans because I don't know. But you get the impression that you kind of be slightly disappointed if you didn't make top 6. That's remarkable.
Yeah.
When you think of the big city clubs and Celtic, Rangers and Aberdeen, that he can have them in that position all the time. Other guys have come and gone. They've had good spells, then bad spells. This isn't a one-off. Stephen Robinson did it at Motherwell as well.
Yeah.
Remarkable. And to me, he screams a Northern Ireland manager.
I mean, he got Motherwell and that into Europe and that as well. I mean, he's
cup finals.
His level is as good as anyone. And I know people talk about his football, right? But he works to a budget. So if he's got more money, he's got better quality players, he'll change and adapt.
Exactly. That's what we talked about with Sean Dyche, Scott.
This is it's football snobbery again with a lot of people. You know what I mean? Yeah. Because he plays this certain way at St Mirren. Used to say that he won't change when if he gets a bigger job. You know what I mean? Because as it stands, he can only work with what he's got and make the most of it, and he does. Gets every penny out of it. You know what I mean? He's done a sensational job.
What I also think, Scott. Sorry, Daniel, just to come in. I think I speak for most football fans of every club. They just want to see heart in the sleeve, effort. People get, there is never a Stephen Robinson team. If they can be terrible some days, make mistakes, but they leave everything out there all the time. And that's the one thing that the Hearts fans could be guaranteed to get. I think it's a great show. I think he's, put it this way, he definitely deserves a chance.
Mm-hmm.
To work with a bit more money and a bit more. And that's nothing against St Mirren. You have to cut your cloth accordingly. But I don't think anyone in Scottish football could begrudge Stephen Robinson a chance like that, given what he's done at Motherwell and St Mirren. He's been incredible.
You see what he's done at St Mirren, and you can see him really unifying Hearts. I mean, because the fans, it's important that the Hearts fans are massive to their club. The money they've put in, you know what I mean, the support they give them, you know what I mean? And they've not had value for money this season. So I think, it's up and down in years. And I think Stephen Robinson is the one man who could bring it all together for them.
But Burnsy, is your gut feeling, do you think it's likely? I mean, I know there'd be so many kind of moving parts to deal with it, but
I think he will be in the equation.
Interesting. And but for anyone watching, Burnsy is really wrong. Let me say that to you. It's John writes in, which is great, and it's really productive point that he makes. He tells us to shut up. Don't want Robinson anywhere near Hearts. Thanks for that, John. That's.
In fairness, I think that would be a St Mirren fan.
It's a good point, actually, Swan. That's a very
No.
good point.
It's
But I
probably
think.
not. I thought about it.
Well, thanks for that, John. That was a really illuminating comment. Going back to your sixth sense, Burnsy, you've got a story online on Record Sport just now about Martin Boyle, a guy that was perhaps again overlooked on the Player of the Year list. What can you tell us about his future?
Not a lot as it stands. His contract is up at the end of the season, and Hibernian have the option to extend that contract by a season, that they can trigger the option on that. As it stands, there hasn't really been any discussions on Martin Boyle's future. The club have until next month to decide to take up that option or not. Obviously, if they don't, then he becomes a free agent. But as it stands, nothing has really progressed on the front of Martin Boyle. And it comes at a time when, Hibs have renewed the contracts of the management team and several of their top players in recent weeks. So you would expect some movement on that front. But the one issue when this one might be the finances involved in it, because Martin is on a really heavy contract at Easter Road. It might.
Oh,
Burnsy. Oh, there he is.
yeah.
Burnsy frozen.
That was a house hierarchy cutting his cable there, Sharpish.
My internet cable.
Sorry, Burnsy, you froze there. You were just saying about Martin Boyle's contract.
Martin Boyle's contract, he's obviously on a heavy contract sort of thing, but it's whether Hibs might not want to commit to that same levels again. They might want to try and renegotiate at a lower level. So it'd be interesting to see how this plays out over the next few weeks, because he's certainly come back to the fore in terms of Hibernian's form this season. And he's been key at that top end of the pitch. So I'm interested to see what happens. But certainly, if Hibs don't take up the option or offer him reduced terms, then I don't think he'll be short of options, put it that way.
17 goals this season, Swanee, for Martin Boyle. I know he didn't start the campaign in the strongest form, but still a really good player. He's just turned 32 a few days ago. I would think if you're Hibs, he's got another couple of good years in him, you'd have thought.
It's a tricky one, isn't it? Because he does strike me as Martin Boyle has always struck me as a kind of talismanic figure at Hibs. When Martin Boyle's flying, Hibs tend to be flying. And I think that was probably borne out by the way Hibs started the season, and Martin Boyle wasn't on it for whatever reason, injury issues or whatever, and just not playing well. And Hibs suffered, and I always just associate Hibs going well with Martin Boyle going well in recent years. But I think for me, if to use Scott's phrase, a heavy contract, that'd be a gamble for me. I would. I think there is a lot of clearance needed at Easter Road. There are a lot of players stockpiled there, and a lot of players are going to have to go. And I think there may be a chance to get something else, perhaps a little bit younger, at a better rate. But I don't think you can argue with what Martin Boyle has done in the second half of the season. And David Gray is somebody I think who would be very loyal. He was very loyal to the players when they weren't really doing it for him earlier in the season, and he was always stuck by them. And Martin Boyle's doing a ton for David Gray, and David Gray's been there for a long time and has seen what Martin Boyle's done for that football club. So it wouldn't surprise me if he's in Martin Boyle's camp in terms of trying to get something over the line for that. So as Scott said, fascinating to see. I can see it from both sides. I can see why they would keep him, because if you could guarantee Martin Boyle was going to be the way he's been for the second half of the season, you'd just get it done.
Yeah,
you would just get it done, but then you also have to think,
it's a big
what if this thing happens again it's happened at the start of the season. So interesting one, very interesting one. Be fascinated to know what the majority of the Hibs fans think about that one.
Aye, definitely. If you want to get involved in the conversation, get involved in the comment section below. In your piece, Burnsy, that's on Record Sport Online at the moment, you say there's interest from 3 different countries in Martin Boyle. Now, what is your gut feeling? Do you think he'll be at Hibs next season? Do you think they'll do a deal?
Well, my gut feeling is that, it doesn't really matter what my gut feeling is, because as it stands, Hibs are holding all the aces. Because if they want to trigger that deal, they trigger it. So it doesn't really matter what anyone else, what other interest is there. It's in Hibs' hands, but at a cost, at a price. You know what I mean? It's whether they think it's a good value. You know what I mean? But in terms of the interest from England, no doubt there'll be McGregor, there's ongoing interest in him from Australia. Obviously, he's a Socceroo, and he's going to have. If he was to become available, he'd have his pick of the A-League clubs. You know what I mean? There'll be interest from down south. I wouldn't be surprised if there's interest from other clubs in Scotland as well.
Interesting.
I mean, if I was him, well, World Cup coming up as well, I'd be if Hibs don't trigger the option, it'd be Australia for me. Cut down the travel in a World Cup year and get to the World Cup finals. I mean, that is the pinnacle. I mean, I think the World Cup's a really big thing in this. I could be talking utter rubbish, but
I agree with you.
If Hibs don't trigger it in his choices and he has options, I would have thought with a World Cup, what a carrot for a player to play in a World Cup. I mean, that is just massive. That World Cup's going to be mega in America. And if he can be in Australia and really in the sight of the management team, not that the Australian management don't look to Scotland, we know that they do. But I just mean it would, he could getting into the A-League and scoring a few goals. Really, I mean, he could cement his place in the finals, and that would be an incredible way to. I'm not trying to pension him off, but would he be maybe 34, maybe something? I don't. By the time the finals come, maybe
just turned 32, so he'd be 33. So, and Hoopsaholic points out he missed the last World Cup with injury. So,
yeah,
aye, exactly. I think you make a fair point.
I think that would be a massive carrot.
Aye, me too.
But we go back to Hibs hold all the aces. So see what happens.
Yeah, and a good thing for Martin Boyle is we've seen when they call up with Hector Triantis and Lewis Miller. Obviously, they're the Australian coach is clearly looking here. So I'm not saying for a second he won't get there anyway if he stays at Israel. But all I was saying was, should there then be a choice to go elsewhere, that would be the one I would go for. But it'd be great to see him playing in a World Cup.
Time will tell, I guess, guys. But for now, I think that brings us to the end of Monday's Hotline Live with Record Sport. Thank you so much for all the comments that were sent in. We really appreciate it. And if you want to get involved in the chat, we'll be back to do it all at 6 p.m. tomorrow night. Once again, Swanee, Burnsy, thank you so much for joining me tonight. Much appreciated.
Thank you.
Pleasure, Daniel.
Thanks, guys. And thanks for watching at home. Cheers.